Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is CMG Talk, and I am Catherine Gallagher, your host as always. Thank you for joining me. Depending on where you're joining me from, of course, depends on what time it is. And it's always good to have you on board. Remember to like, share, and download. And then you won't miss out in any of the episodes. Now, all the episodes do link in together, so remember, don't miss out on any of them because they all will interlink at some point with communication and identifying who you are and the parts and the archetypes of parts of who you are, and obviously to do with loss and change. There's lots of different parts that link in. Now today with mental health, I'm also looking at Abraham Maslow, his motivation for who we are as being and becoming our best self, looking at the processes that we go through in his mind. He, in 1940, developed this model, and he set this model down. Obviously, these concepts were around, but he formulated a model in 1954. It came into its own, and it's one of these concept models that looks like a pyramid or a triangle, and many trainers and business people and many people at large look at these levels, if you like, and take them as they are. You'll hear lots of healthcare people also relate to this model too, and they will often talk about these needs and how we as human beings will look for each level to be met before we progress, and every level that you meet, you bring that level forward. So it's not like you meet one and then you move on to the next, you bring each level forward. So the first level that we talk about in this model is looking at the psychological, and the psychological is the basic needs that you look to meet. And these basic needs are, water, basic shelter, and food, right? Emotional, keeping yourself in that place. So it's the basic fundamental needs that we have and that we need to make sure. So such as food and water, as I say, and basic shelter. And once we've got those established, and often people, will focus on those. We need to have those present before we will move forward. People often say that to me, I can understand that because, where I was in my life, that fundamentally was all I could think about. I needed, to basically, all I could think about was the air I breathed. All I could think about was having food and water. I couldn't think about anything else. Nothing else really mattered to me. And if we think about these things and think about what it really looked like for us, because the basic needs that we have to have met is fundamentally about protecting our core needs, survival. It's all about survival. At the moment we know there's an earthquake that's going on in Turkey as I'm talking. There's still the tremors, I think, are probably very minor to us now. But right now, there's a lot of people just basically trying to survive, and they're looking at basic needs, aren't they? They're looking at food and water and shelter, basic shelter. The psychological needs. Safety. Safety is a need for more stable shelter. You look at the safety aspects. And the safety aspects are where you're looking for personal security. You then look at resources for healthcare, more stable housing. And that's really the next step that they will move on in that instance, where it'll be more stable shelter for these people that have been put under this terrible tragedy of this natural disaster. They'll be looking for situations where they'll be giving tents and shelter with, heaters, to keep them warm. And along with that, they'll be making sure as much as possible that they'll get, along with the psychological needs for intimacy and clothing and good sleep, better sleep, the shelter will be less basic, and the food, water, and air, all of that psychological needs will be brought on, and it'll be more about personal and emotional safety. And then, maybe trying to get some kind of functioning going on, resources, healthcare, and in our world, we were not maybe in a natural disaster, you would then look at employment, and you would look at maybe property, finances. And of course, people there might be looking at finances to purchase things if they're not getting donations, depending if things are operational there. So psychological needs very much are about intimacy, clothing, basic sleep, shelter, the basic shelter, food, water, air, fundamentally basic needs. And then you move on, bringing along with your psychological, emotional needs. You then look on to safety, and it's personal and emotional safety. It's employment, it's finances, it's resources, it's health, and it's property. Once you've met those psychological, the physiological, and the safety needs, you're then looking at love and belonging. Love and belonging. So you're then looking at friendships and intimacy and family and a sense of connection and belonging within your society, with where you are, community, church, friendship groups, hobbies and interests, love and belonging, building on those relationships, connections, feeling a sense that things are working better for you. So people often will come to me and they might be saying the psychological, physiological needs for air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, and that intimacy level of reproduction, basic levels of, fundamental needs. They might be at that point where they're really struggling to meet those basic needs. The physiological, psychological needs. Once they're established and there's stability there, we then will be looking to move forward to the safety needs. And then we're looking at personal and emotional safety. We're looking at employment and getting stability in place, resources, healthcare, property. Looking to establish those anchors and those securities. And then we'll be moving on, bringing the physiological, psychological and safety needs, and bringing love and belonging in a wider community. And family units, intimacy. So it's not just about reproduction, it's about intimacy and connection and friendships, family and a sense of connection. Establishing a place. So not displacement, but placement and connectedness, love, and establishing that security and that sense of feeling connected. And once you've got the physiological and the safety needs and the love and belonging, you then start looking within yourself. Respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength and freedom. And you also look to others for them to show you respect, self-esteem, status, recognition, strength and freedom. It's two levels, twofold. You want to receive it, and you want to give it. When we are at a point where we have worked on our ego, the I, and we are looking at building our confidence and our self-esteem and our self-worth, our value, how we value ourselves, and we are looking at our archetypes, how we see ourselves, knowing who we are, knowing our core values, knowing what's important to us, our strengths, things we're working on, but accepting all of us, surrounding ourselves and connecting to people and having a belonging and a feeling that we belong and having that self-worth, and knowing that people will have an opinion and have a, a way of connecting to us. And we can choose our friendships often. We don't often feel we can choose our family. Sometimes we will, depending on our circumstances. But sometimes we create family. It's not necessarily a biological family. But it's really important that you have within that esteem, that you have that strong sense that you're building up your inner talk. And if you've listened to these episodes on the archetypes, if you've listened to the episodes on self-talk, you'll understand when I talk about your inner voice being your own best champion. You'll have heard me talk about this. You'll have heard me talk about understanding what makes you you, getting to know you, getting to understand you, getting to embrace all of you, flaws and all. Right? And it's a work in progress. Who you are is a work in progress. And knowing that not everybody is going to like you, and that's okay. Not everybody will agree with you at times, and that's okay. And being prepared to grow and to learn and to progress. And understanding that people will react to you sometimes wonderfully and sometimes they won't. And that's okay. You'll make mistakes because that's human and that's how we learn and grow. Being able to understand all of that and embrace you as who you are, and understanding that it's about finding you and your purpose and what makes you you and what you're meant to be doing. We have a sense that we want to find who we are and what makes us us and what is our purpose, our passion in life. And that then moves us on to desire to become the most that we can be, to actualizing, to being our best and our full potential. And that takes us to the level of self-actualization. And then we can then progress to not just serving ourselves, but serving others too, with generosity and gratitude. So it's just not about us, it's also about others too. And of course we can do that at any time. It doesn't have to be, when we've self-actualized, when we become our full potential. And it's not like you stop in journey. It's not like you get to that point where you've become and you feel that this is where I'm meant to be in life, this is what I'm meant to be doing. You're constantly growing and constantly developing, constantly learning. I've met people that are in their 90s and they're telling me that life is still a journey for them and they're still excited about what each life and each day brings. And they're always learning. They're always learning something new. And that's exciting. It's how you choose to look at things. It's where you point your brain and how you choose to look at things that matters. It's easy sometimes because our brain is wired that way to look at the negative, and we can go with that. But where does that take you? Well, it often takes you to nowhere good, doesn't it? I said that to someone one day, and they said, is that what it's called, nowhere good? And I said, you can call it whatever you like, right? But it doesn't take you anywhere good, nowhere good, right? If we want to find somewhere positive, if we want to feel uplifted and happy, and we want to change our mood, we have to work on our mindset. It's a state of mind. You know, people say happiness is a choice. It is a choice. When people say to me, I want to be happy, I'll say, well, make the choice to be happy. We can choose to be happy. If we choose to look at things in a better way for ourselves, then we're more likely to be more positive. If we choose to dwell on the things that aren't working and the things that make us sad, that's what our brain sees, and that's what we get more of. Does that make sense? That's just how our brain works. It's important that you do understand that emotions are emotions. And that's what makes us human. And all emotions are wonderful, even the bad ones, right? Because that makes us human. It makes us be able to feel. So even if you feel sad or down or depressed or low or unhappy, it's because you're human that you can feel that. And if you choose to look at it that way, then you can then say, okay, I feel this, so what do I do about it? Do I sit with it? Do I focus on it? Do I dwell on it? Or do I do something about it? It's a choice. It's a choice. It's a state of mind. And people say, oh, it's easy for you to say that. Yeah, I've just said it, right? But it's action. It's when we take action, that's what makes a difference. And we don't try, we need to do. The trying doesn't make it happen. The doing does. Right? I try. Whenever you tell your brain, I'll try, your brain goes, oh, okay then. How does it feel when you ask somebody if they can do something and they go, I'll try? Do you go, yeah, that's great, thanks, if you could try? If somebody says to you, yeah, I'll do that, I'll make it happen, do you go, thanks, that would be great? It's different. It's the intention. If somebody tells you they'll do it, you believe them. If they say they'll try, you kind of don't, right? It's the same thing with your brain. What you say to yourself affects, right? What happens? Think, feel and act. What you tell yourself affects how you feel, affects what you do. Think, feel and act. Remember that model I told you I wrote? So think very carefully what you say to yourself, right? Every time you have that internal talk with yourself, I talk about it being your own best champion. Sometimes people talk about being, oh, that's the jester, or that's the villain, or that. I don't want a villain in my head or a jester in my head. I want a champion in my head. I want that talk to be the thing that gets me up and gets me motivated. And yes, of course, I'm going to be sad, I'm going to be upset, and I'm going to be down at times, but it's what I do with that matters. It's what I do with it that matters. Do you agree? What do you think? So, let's think about the basic needs. Let's think about the physiological, the safety, the belonging, the esteem, and actualizing and progressing. Look where you are within this. Look where you are within this. If you think about this process. How are you serving you? How are you serving you within this model? What are you doing? Are you looking at your physiological basic needs? Is that what you're serving? Water, air, basic shelter? Are you progressing into safety needs? Is it the house? Is it finances? Is it you doing more than that? You're like, no, actually, Catherine, it's not just that. I'm actually doing more than that. Are you saying, no, actually, I'm invested in relationships. I'm really investing in my connections of belonging. I'm really working on my connections and making sure I've got good connections. Are you actually saying, actually, I'm not just doing that, I'm also really working on myself to be the best version of myself and how I interact with other people and serving myself and serving other people really well? Or are you saying, actually, I'm beyond that now? I'm really at a level where I'm actually looking at becoming the best version of myself and looking to serve others too with generosity and compassion and kindness. Where are you within this model? I'm wondering. I'm just wondering where you are. Because when we start reflecting, where am I? What do I need to doing right now? Am I at the right point? Am I really working on myself? Am I progressing? Am I pushing myself to do more, to be better, to have better? Am I happy with the level I'm at? Am I really serving myself to the best? Am I working on myself? Am I managing, to make sure I get good sleep and exercising and eating healthily and connecting really well, working on my connections with family and friends? Am I really doing everything I need to do? Am I learning? Am I challenging myself? Am I excited in my life? Do I have passion in my life? Do I have everything I need in my life? I don't know. Right? I don't know. What would you say to that? What would you say to that? Some people say, I don't know. Maybe I'm not at the basic level. Maybe I'm at safety. Some people would say, actually, I'm really working on my relationships. Other people would say, actually, I'm more about self-esteem. Some people would say, I feel as if I'm really working on myself at that really high level. But I wonder, if we're really honest, where are we within that model? Think about it. Just asking. It's good sometimes to stop and reflect and really to figure out where we are, because then it really helps us to know where we are, where we want to be, and how we get there. Just checking in with this model with you, because it's quite good sometimes to use certain models just to get an understanding of what works for us, what is working and what isn't, and what could work better. What do you think? Do you think that this has been helpful? Hopefully you've found this an insight. There's lots of different models, lots of different ways to look at things and ways to work on things, but I thought this might be quite interesting to talk it through, because it helps us to understand motivation and our purpose and our drive and where we are. I'm going to look at motivation further in different aspects, but I thought this might be a way to look at how to motivate ourselves through growth and change into becoming our best version of ourselves. Okay, thanks very much for listening to me. This was just a small drop in here, and I look forward to catching up with you soon. Keep listening and like, share and download. And remember, if there's anything in particular you would like to have me talk about, then message me at stepupcmg@xln.co.uk. I'm Catherine Gallagher, I'm your host, and this is CMG Talk. And remember, don't miss out on any episodes by following me as you go along. Any problems with that, please let me know. Okay, take good care. Bye for now and speak to you soon.